The third night, I couldn't sleep. And I said, okay, I'm going to meditate and see if I can go to sleep. And I was too lazy to get up. So I was lying in my bed and I said, I'm going to meditate and then go to sleep. But I couldn't get in a meditation. So I made myself stay there. And all of a sudden, my mattress went down on the bed as if someone had gotten on my bed. And when I opened my eyes, this being was about that far from my face.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I I remember taking this deep breath in, like, pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
And the face was there and then it dissolved. Almost like...
I was going to say like the Nordic.
like the Nordic did.
Wow.
And all I know is this. Telepathy is real.
Right.
On a couple of my visits, the being that spoke to me without moving their mouths. And so I know that is real. I know telepathy is real.
Yep.
And if these brothers and sisters with autism can find a way to connect and read your mind, wow, I love it.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie. We are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. I have a very special return guest lined up for you guys, and I am stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together.
And I'm Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we are here with Michael J.S. Carter again. Michael, say hi.
Hello, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful holiday, whatever it is that you celebrate. And thanks for taking the time to out of your day or your evening to listen.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And for our audience, I will introduce you guys to Michael, but if you have not seen our first interview with him that's already posted on the channel, highly recommend go check that one out as well. But for our audience that may have missed that one, on this episode of Living Life Consciously, we will dive deep into the mysteries of spirituality, extraterrestrial contact, and ancient texts with our special return guest, Michael Carter. Originally from Baltimore and longtime resident of NYC, Michael's path has led him from the theater stage to spiritual enlightenment. Now a Unitarian Universalist minister and anti-racism advocate, he's also a UFO contactee and renowned author of Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, a work that Whitley Strieber himself calls the best book ever written on the subject. Michael's profound insights have been featured on Ancient Aliens and the History Channel, where he explores how sacred texts might actually hold clues to interactions with beings from beyond our world. What if biblical figures like angels and gods were visitors from other realms? Join us for this mind-expanding conversation as we shed light on personal experiences and spiritual discoveries that blend faith, histories, and the mysteries of the cosmos.
Wow.
Super, super fancy.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me back. I was looking forward to it.
absolutely. Should I start with a follow-up question that I have from the first time you were here?
Sure.
Okay, great. Last time you were on, you were describing how you had interaction with a few different type of ETs. We mentioned the
Yes.
Greys, the Dracos, the Nordics, and you kind of like said it but skipped over where you had an instance where a Nordic healed a blood clot in your leg. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell me that
Yes.
story? Because I was wondering that
Yeah.
the first time we talked to you.
It's interesting because this is one of the things I spoke about for the new Ancient Aliens. It'll air in March.
Oh, the one
Okay.
you just filmed.
Yeah, we did
Okay.
3 episodes. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, What had happened was, it was in 2013. There's a little backstory, so I'll try to condense it.
Okay.
I had a blood clot, and I never had a blood clot. I didn't know it was a blood clot. I thought I had maybe pulled a muscle or something, but it was 2013 was a rough year for me. I was getting divorced. I had lost my job, and my dad, my biological dad, had died. And so I had it in my right leg, and it was from my ankle up to the groin area. And a friend of mine in New York said, you really need to go get that checked out, which I did.
Okay.
And so my primary care physician said, did you drive here by yourself? I said, yeah. He said, you must get an ultrasound. Can you drive? He said, you have to go right away, because if it bursts, it's life-threatening.
Yeah.
So I went to get the ultrasound. The backstory is the healing I got was on July 4th, 2013. And so the backstory is, I have a lot of friends who fought in the Vietnam War. And, some of them were damaged, they were young, but I had a lot of friends who did. And they were telling me about the war and how they slept in foxholes and it would rain and incoming artillery and outgoing and those kinds of things. And some of them just, when I'm with them on the 4th of July, the fireworks and stuff, it just really, it triggers them.
Yeah.
So anyway,
my uncle was the same way.
On July 4th, 2013, here in North Carolina, it rained really, really hard, severe thunderstorms, and they canceled the fireworks. I don't like fireworks. I never really did. And so, but at the time I was trying to be a good dad, and I don't know whether we were still trying to stay together. We eventually got divorced, but they love fireworks. And so I would go, you get there at 7:30. You get there about 7. They don't start till 9:30. You got to find parking. It's over at 10 because, so, but I did it every year.
Okay.
And, you're sitting so close to people. It was uncomfortable. So I was so happy they canceled it. And it was really severe thunderstorms here. And I thought to myself, this is what my friends went through in Vietnam. It sounded like war. It sounded like artillery. So at 10 minutes to 9, I'm in my room. I was living in an apartment then, alone, because we were separated. And it was almost like the first contact I had. I can't explain it, but I felt someone in my room. And when I turned around, because I sleep on my stomach and I wasn't asleep, I turned around and there was a being as tall as my ceiling, which was about 8-9 feet tall, had on was very pale, blue eyes, had I guess it was like a page boy, because you could see bangs, and it was blonde hair. And they had not a hoodie, but you call it a cowl, like a robe.
I see.
With the hood up, like the monks wore in 12th, 13th century. And he was very built. You could see his physique through the robe, and a rope belt. And I was, of course, not only startled, but really afraid. And at the time, I was injecting myself with something called a nexaparin to shrink the clot.
Oh, okay.
And this individual held out his hand, and an apple green light came out of it, because I saw it, and it hit my stomach. But I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel anything. I just saw it hit my stomach. And I looked down and I looked at him, and he just dissolved, like his molecules just separate.
Wow.
Hmm.
But when I pulled myself together, it's like fight or flight. My heart was beating,
Sure.
and when I looked down at my stomach, I looked at my legs, and my legs were normal. My right leg was normal. It was swollen like LeBron James's leg. I wish I had legs.
Huh.
And it shrank. It was normal.
Wow.
So what I did was I called a friend of mine named Preston Dennett. I'm sure you've heard
Oh,
of him.
yes.
Oh.
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, and because he's written 2 books on UFO healings.
Mm-hmm.
He put me in his second book, the story I'm telling you now.
Okay.
But I called him, and so this guy was in my room at 9:50 on July 4th. So I called Preston, who was living in California then. So it was 10:07 there. He lives on the East Coast now, Preston. And he wasn't home. He was probably out. It was early.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my ex and my daughter. And when I showed my leg to them, they were like, they said at the same time, they healed your leg. And that's what happened.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what happened. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to be talking. One of the things I'm going to be talking about on Ancient Aliens, because someone had written an article about it, and the producers sent it to me, and they said, "Have you read this?" And I hadn't. And so, we talked about that, which was, very interesting because they usually don't talk about those kinds of things, but they're going to do a segment, I think, on experiencers. So, yeah, that's what happened.
Wow.
So I had to heal. I had a blood clot heal.
So you may or may not be on a clip for Ancient Aliens speaking on your experience. Do I understand that?
No, I will be.
You will be. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't happen until March.
Yeah.
Cool.
When I was in New York week before last, I was there shooting that.
I mean, I'm not saying it was the aliens, but it was the aliens.
Leslie, you're so funny.
That's Giorgio. That's Giorgio. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think last time we talked, was it before all of the orbs and everything that's happening with the orbs and the drones and
In New Jersey?
Yeah,
after?
Yeah.
I was
It
trying to
was.
figure that out today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was way before then.
Yeah,
It
because
was-
the drone thing started in like mid-November, so we spoke. at the
Yeah, it's been a few
beginning of
months since
November,
we've
I
talked
think.
to you.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about all that?
You know,
What's your assessment, Michael? Give it to me. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I think that this is technology that we don't have, that no government has.
Okay.
And I feel that we're being warned. Boy, it's a lot I could say. There's a couple things that concern me.
Okay.
The first thing is I applaud our government's all of a sudden they want to be transparent. I'm suspicious of it, but I applaud it.
Okay.
But what I am concerned is the militarization of it. Now, the only people who are controlling this narrative are the military or military intelligence or pilots, and so everyday people who have these experiences, you kind of put aside. And I'll see where that leads, because what it may wind up being that the only people who will have credibility is not people like you and I, but you got to be in the military.
I see what you're saying.
That's one thing.
Okay.
Okay.
That's valid. I appreciate that.
The
Yep.
other thing is that ever since we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, UFO sightings have obviously increased.
Yes.
And in 1952, that you've seen the pictures of UFOs flying over the White House.
Yes.
And again, they were telling us these lies about it. And I believe that we know that these are not ours. It's still that let's see how people react.
So it's like a litmus test almost for
Yeah.
society,
Well,
right?
it's, just to see. I'm not saying that it's staged. I'm not
Okay.
going that far.
Okay.
But what I am saying is I believe they do know, but they're still kind of reluctant to say, hey, this is what it is. But we know that these visitors are concerned about two things. They're concerned
Okay.
about our nuclear capabilities, and they're concerned about climate change.
Hmm.
And so
Planetary
here we
concerns.
interesting
have,
points.
and they're flying. It's not just New Jersey; it's over the whole planet.
Exactly.
And they're flying near military installations for
Right.
all the obvious reasons. But if you're a pickpocket, you go to a party, you don't see people, all you see is pockets. Well, if you're in the military, all you're going to think about is national security, national security. What are threats? What are not threats?
Yep.
Now, when they shut down our missile silos, I don't see that as a threat.
Oh, me neither.
I see that as them saying, you're playing with fire, you're being watched, you don't know, you could destroy yourselves.
Right.
But we don't see that. We see, I'm talking about our decision makers, our leaders.
Yeah.
We see everything as a threat. And so everything we respond from fear. And I find that very dangerous.
Yep.
And again, if you go back and read the literature, many contactees, many experiencers will say, I was warned, I was told about our nuclear situation or what we're doing to the planet. So I'm concerned because we don't listen. And all we're getting out of this is the technology, which we don't know how to handle the technology we have. We make weapons. We want to fight each other. And whoever controls that tech controls the planet. No one's talking about the shift in consciousness that we will need in order to survive with or without the tech, but what's going on with what we're doing to the planet. So those are my thoughts about it.
Mm. It's true, though, because like when you mentioned about the warnings that these ETs seem to give contactees, I mean, I immediately thought of the kids at the aerial school, where there's an entire school that, saw this craft, saw the ETs, and all the kids spoke about having telepathic communications where they were being warned about technology and destruction of the planet and pollution and climate change and all that stuff. It's like they all got that same message about like, get your act together, you guys, stop effing up the planet.
Yeah. And, even there, I mean, I love that they went to Africa. But you know what? You don't have to go that far. There are people right here who can give you the information that you need. So I just want to see where it's going to go. But I am concerned about the militarization of this. And, I talk to a lot of experiencers, and they're like, I'm not into politics, but you are into politics. And if you're not into politics, you need to be into politics because not geopolitics and exopolitics are intertwined. The politics of how do we deal with the fact that we're not alone? How are we going to deal with off-planet consciousness? Because most of the countries of the world already know about this and are a little more open than we are about it.
A little more accepting, yeah.
So it's all politics. And so you just have to decide how you're going to navigate that. But people who say, oh, I'm just into UFOs and not politics, you better rethink that.
Mm.
Good point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that's coming to mind. It's like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So when you're military, everything is either a threat or a friendly, like there's not really any gray area.
Well, there's no friendlies. They're threats. It's like a cop. A cop, everybody is a potential criminal because that's the way they're trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just a different way of looking at life. If people shut down your missiles, but they're not taking your missiles. They're not attacking you with the missiles. They're telling you need to get a grip on this.
Right.
But if you're coming from a fear-based kind of consciousness,
Okay.
you see that, oh my God, so it's that's the shift that we probably need to make going forward.
Yeah.
Now, if you were in charge of the narrative, not the military industrial complex, how would you navigate the narrative if you were the one leading it? Because you mentioned how nobody's talking about the consciousness shift aspect
or
to
religion,
it, right?
or they're not talking
So
about.
let's talk about it.
Of the phenomenon. Well, there are a couple things I would do, and you can just look at what happened in South Africa during apartheid. What they did, because a lot of people, government people, a lot of people won't come forward because they don't want to lose their pensions. If you're as an intellectual, a scholar, because a lot of religious people know the translations and whatever, but if they come out and say this, they're going to lose their livelihood.
They're afraid of the backlash.
So what I would suggest is we do what they did in South Africa, where you have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee.
Okay.
And what that would look like would be the government coming clean.
Yeah.
And people who were killed, that's a tough call because a lot of people were killed because they couldn't keep their mouths shut or they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because this was, the top secrets are nuclear secrets and UFOs. Those are high level. You have to have a need to know.
Right.
So what I would suggest is that we just come clean and that no one loses their job. No one loses their pension. We start with a tabula rasa. We've been lying for 70 plus years. Some people lost their lives. You just have to say, this is it. And that way you're starting over. You can't bring back the dead, but you can honor them by just coming clean with this. Let's talk about this. And you can say why. Look, we were afraid. We thought that, so there's that dialogue between the government, the military, and the citizens. And I would get the Vatican talks about this. I mean, I wasn't raised Catholic, but I can tell you as a minister, I'm a Protestant minister, no one's talking about this. And we need to talk about the religious aspect of this. Because if you look at the Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Akkadian, Babylonian texts, they talk about these beings having a hand in our creation. The only difference is that these beings in those narratives, the Eastern narratives, they make no bones about it. They're not trying to monotheize and tell you there's just one God. That's what the Hebrews did. They're just saying, hey, man, these beings came down here, and this is what it was like to share the planet. Because we don't want to use the word, but we were invaded.
Okay.
We were invaded. Now, you can say it was an intervention. You can say what you want, but we were invaded. And so we need to be able to face up to that. And I get it. That's why a lot of governments, because then you say, well, we can't control our airspace. And okay, you could navigate those things. But we were invaded, and that these beings had a hand in our creation. Some of them did. Some of them were friendly, some of them not so much. And some of them were just neutral. But I'm not saying it. You can pick up a Bible and read it.
Right.
You're saying, so, and it's in all the cultures, Native American culture, whether you're in Norway or the Philippines, they're all talking about beings who came down and interacted. Some of them had kids, those types of things. Because otherwise, it's coming out anyway.
Right.
Coming out anyway. And there was 50, I think it's around 50% of people, I think Americans, but of our population, they already believe it. They already know
50%?
that we're being
Okay.
lied to. Yeah, 47 to 50%.
Okay.
So
Right.
people aren't going to. There'll always be some people who will flip, of course, but most people, because they've already set it up with the movies. Hollywood's been involved
Yeah,
with the
we've
government
conditioning,
spoon
right?
feeding us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's grow up and be part of this galactic, this galactic citizenship, because that's what we are.
Right.
And we have to grow up. We can't just keep doing what we're doing, because otherwise we're going to destroy ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I would frame it.
You're hired. You're hired.
Yeah, can we vote for you?
Right. Michael for president.
No. But that's how I would, and maybe one day when they're a little further down the line and when they start talking to ministers and stuff, maybe I can have a say in that. But that's how I would handle it now, because I get calls every day from people who say, can I still keep my faith and believe? And of course you can. The stories in the Bible are about that.
Yeah, I feel like it's all interconnected. All the historical, in all the different cultures, it's that they're speaking the same thing with different, titles and words and things like that. But,
all the same stories with different explanations or different ways to tell that story.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I feel like with the age of Aquarius and everything, I feel like everything that you just laid out, I'm hopeful that it's naturally going to happen. You know what I mean? Like that's where we're headed with everything. And I guess, I don't know, the light is going to shed on the darkness that's happening. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I have a positive outlook that, we're headed in the direction that you would like to see,
Yay.
Well, when I talk to my astrologer, she makes a great point. She says that it's not just going to happen magically. We have to have intentionality. We have to have, you have to work for this.
Yeah.
You have to change the way it's not just going to, oh my God, let's all sing Kumbaya. You have to work towards this. But the age of Aquarius is that we have the opportunity. Have, coming out of 2,000 years of Pisces, we have the opportunity to work towards a more inclusive, a more accepting planet. But it's not just going to happen because there are people who don't want that. There are people who money and the old way is working for them. So,
and them only.
Gandhi said, you have to be the change.
Yes.
Yes.
Maya Angelou.
Well, Gandhi says that as well.
Is it Gandhi? I'm sorry. Okay.
And that you don't want to, that you have to make that happen. It's just not going to just appear.
Right. Now, you were talking specifically about religious figures earlier, and I don't know if you guys know too much about this. I'm just going to throw it out there and see if it sticks. Recently, Leslie, was it on Christmas Eve or Christmas where the Pope supposedly opened up some kind of portals by chanting some kind of sacred chant or something? And I don't know too much about it. All I know is that it happened. Do you know anything about that?
Check it out. I couldn't figure it out. He wasn't opening portals. It was a Jubilee year, which they talk about. And he just opened the doors of a prison.
Oh. I saw the big door.
Yeah. He opened the doors. It was an old prison or something. And it was symbolic of setting the captives free, of starting all over again. But there weren't any portals.
Okay. I probably read too much into that.
And you can go, well, no, I mean, they put it out. Yeah, people were saying
they
it.
were hyping it, yeah.
You can, you can Google it and you can go see it. I saw it on Facebook.
Okay.
I figured I'd mention it because it was just recent.
But then I stopped because legit, I don't know. I'm questioning what the heck's really happening here, and do I want to witness it? I don't know.
I know. I saw you said that.
No, he was opening the doors of a prison.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if you've heard of the telepathy tapes.
Oh, yes. I would love to talk to you about the telepathy tapes, if you know what those are. It's a
fill me
podcast.
in.
It's a podcast by Kai Dickens, and it's about nonverbal autistic children and how
Yeah,
they're
I've heard about that.
Okay.
I have heard about that. Yes.
Have you
Okay.
listened to that?
I know, I haven't.
Okay.
And you know what? How can I say? There's so much stuff going on
Yeah.
that I'm just trying to keep stuff in front of me. I mean, I'm sure it's interesting. I've heard people talk about, all I know is this. Telepathy is real.
Right.
On a couple of my visits, the being that spoke to me without moving their mouths. And so I know that is real. And that's kind of all I can take in right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like so much stuff. And, you'll hear about it and then you won't hear about it. Because we how can I say? This is the best way I can say it.
Yeah.
I have more information that I know what to do with.
Oh, you're saturated.
I'm looking for wisdom.
Understood.
Okay.
And I live in a culture that mistakes the two.
Okay.
And I'm not downplaying that. That's good to know. But I don't need to saturate myself with that.
Sure.
I'm almost 70 years old in 2 years. I just I'm looking for wisdom.
You don't need to learn that lesson. You've already experienced it.
I got so much information. I know telepathy is real.
Yep.
And if these brothers and sisters with autism can find a way to connect and read your mind, wow, I love it.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for validating telepathy. And yeah.
Otherwise, because there's something every day that's new and exciting.
There is.
And then it just goes through. And I that's information.
It is number one on the podcast charts, though.
I got
above
you.
Joe Rogan.
And I love it. I love
Isn't
it.
that great?
And people who are into it, great.
You've
Awesome.
already had personal telepathic experience, so you don't need to listen to a podcast to learn that telepathy is real. But for the normal layman person who doesn't understand this or accept it or never even thought about it before, I feel like this podcast is a good introduction to ease it into their subconscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also for autism awareness and acceptance and compassion.
Yes.
I mean, they're amazing people, and everybody needs to give them,
Yes. Shout out to our neurodivergent family.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
All right. So, Michael, your work also involves anti-racism training, which I think is amazing. Do you find any interaction between your advocacy work and your beliefs about extraterrestrial life and human evolution?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't do so much of that work anymore. I'm burnt out on it. But yeah. I feel that if we can't get along with each other as human beings, how are we going to be able to deal with off-planet intelligences who some of them look really bizarre? And, I feel that as I've heard the term, I kind of borrowed it, the intergalactic racism of all the blonde, blue-eyed Nordics are the angelic and the really beautiful, and all the other races are kind of evil, the grays or the praying mantis or whatever. And I find that to be kind of subconsciously this whole thing of whiteness, and But if you go back and read some of the literature by Billy Meyer or even some other material, you find out that all the blonde, blue-eyed Nordic or Palladian people are not all benevolent. I mean, some of them may have been in touch with the Third Reich, which is where Hitler was getting some of his ideas.
I think Hitler's obsession with whiteness came from an interaction with the Nordics. I think he took that interaction with them and ran with it in a crazy direction.
Well, it's very interesting. My wife and I were talking about it yesterday, and she's German and Polish. And she was saying, because his whole obsession with blonde, blue-eyed, but he was not blonde, blue-eyed himself.
No, he wasn't at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's also been this speculation about, some of it's not really speculation about where he was getting, the technology, because their weaponry was very, 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 very advanced.
Right.
And
Glock.
what's his name? Oh, what's his name? He said that they had, oh, I'll look it up. He said that they had help from beings
That the
from outer space.
Germans
Oh.
had ET assistance.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I recall hearing something. Yeah.
But yeah, I've always kind of like chewed on that idea that the reason why Hitler was obsessed with blonde hair, blue eyed people had to have been because he had some kind of like interaction with the Nordics and then just like idolized them and felt like some kind of way about it. Plus he was all like hyped up on meth. So there's that.
Yeah, they were all you know, a lot of their leadership.
He was geeked out.
I'm trying to find Carol Rosin is her name, and she talked about what's his name? Werner von Braun.
Oh,
Told her
yes.
that they had help in their physicists and scientists, that they had otherworldly help during the war.
Now, I feel the very urgent need to ask you about the secret space program, because I am like kind of obsessed with the secret space program. And I know that they say that like Hitler and his Reich has been out in space for like a minute now. And there's all kind of human colonies up there that have populated all kind of places. And the idea of like 20 and backs and all that stuff, like I'm throwing a lot at you, but what's your understanding of the secret space program? Or do you have an understanding?
What's his name? Hold on.
That's new to me.
What?
I've never heard that Hitler's out in space with the
I haven't.
Yes.
Either.
That's new to me.
That's why I was like, whoa.
I believe I learned that during my days of listening to like Corey Good.
Oh, well, I won't go back to Hitler, but Alain Juliet, who was he with the French Secret Service? Anyway, he talked about us having bases on Mars and the moon. This was very recently.
Okay.
And that this has been going on for 70 plus years. And so I think that is, you know, when you have people like that talking about it, why would he lie about that? I'm trying to think of the other guy. He was the head of Israel's.
Haim Eshed?
Haim Eshed.
Yes, he said that their bases on the moon and Mars.
Yeah, there's a couple people that have spoke out about this.
Yeah, and no one told him to shut up. He wasn't banned, and he would know. Medvedev, the guy who's Putin was close with Putin, he said that every new Russian president gets a dossier of all the planets, of all the races that we're involved with.
What?
So yeah, it's there.
Okay.
And so we're just hearing about it, but this has been going on for probably quite a while.
What did it? It makes me think of the Antarctic Treaty and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like
I love how the reason why they say we can't go to Antarctica is because they need to preserve it for scientific study. I'm sorry, what? You don't give a shit about any other place on this earth. Why do you want a whole continent just to yourself?
Right, and you could clearly see a pyramid from satellite imagery in Antarctica, and that's wild. I mean, what is that pyramid doing there? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I even think they did an Ancient Aliens episode on it. I think.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, talking about the age of Aquarius, you know, a lot of hidden things will be revealed, and so I think this is part of that.
Okay, well, shoot, I'm glad I did my homework 2 years ago during that spiritual dark night of the soul I was going through. Yeah. I was going through the dark night of the soul, and I was like, I'm just going to dive into all this because I was ready to just check out of planet Earth. I was ready to just not be here anymore. And I went from that to discovering like near-death experiences and animal communication, which led me to telepathy, which led me to aliens, and it's just been like a big...
And then which led us to meet each other.
Yep. Yeah.
Us too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leslie too. Uh-huh.
And now here we
Yeah.
are.
Right.
I was going to ask you about the mantis being that you spoke about last time. I don't know if you told us like the interaction or if there was one, like, or what happened when you saw
Yeah.
that.
There was back in 2019, I did a conference at Knoxville, University of Knoxville. And, it's a 2-hour drive from where I live. And so, do I have, hold on.
It's fireworks.
I have I'll just show you these. I have the Nordic person too. This is one of the beings that I first saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I showed you that.
You did show us that.
With
Yeah.
the silver with the silver outfit, right?
Yes, this is the
That's
So-
another obsession I have is this whole mantis being situation.
yeah. So
I heard they're super psychic. They just got to move their little antennaes and
well, they're
blast
very
it.
intelligent. They're really highly intelligent, is what the literature says about them.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, they treated me well, and it was really, I got a standing ovation, which was very surprising to me. That's what sticks out to me, and because they were, Knoxville, Tennessee, people are very uber religious.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know what I was saying was going to be, palatable for them, but they were into it. And so anyway, I met a lot of people there, and a woman who I had met there actually called me, and she said, I have a friend who wants to talk to you. She wasn't at the conference, but she has a message for you. And she's bought your books, and I was intrigued, and I said, "Oh, okay. What's the message?" And she said, "Do you want me to give you her phone number?" I said, "No, don't give my phone number out." She said, "Well, she's right here. Do you have time to talk?" And I said, "Yeah, put her on." And she said, she was effusive in her praise, and it was nice. And she said, she said, "Have you ever seen a mantis being before?" I said, "No, that's one being I have yet to see." And she said, I got this kind of weird, she says, "I'm a psychic, but I'm also a lawyer." And I was like, whoa, that's right and left hemispheres coming together.
Right.
And I didn't ask her what form of jurisprudence she practiced, but she said, "So I got to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "You have a praying mantis being around you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I didn't know what else to say. She said, "No, I'm serious." And she said, "And you're going to see this being in 3 days." And I said, "Wow, okay." She said, "I know you think I'm crazy, but," and I said, "Okay." So, and then I talked to my friend, and we got off the phone. And so the next night, I was home alone, and in my apartment, and I could just feel, it just felt different. That's all I can say. And I said to myself, "Michael, come on, this is auto-suggestion. Just calm it down." So went on about my day, went to work, went to the church, and came. The next night, I started walking. When I was walking around the apartment, the hair on my body stood on end, and I got goosebumps.
Okay.
And I just said, "Hey, Michael, maybe it's your brother." See, my brother was murdered, back in '95, but he would
Sorry
come
about
visit.
that.
But when he would come, thank you, he smoked cigarettes, and my apartment would smell like cigarettes. So I knew that he was around. And so I would just say, "Hey, this is what's going on in my day, what's going on that side." And, I would just have that conversation. But I was accustomed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was no cigarette smoke. And I was like, boy, come on. The third night, I couldn't sleep. And I said, okay, I'm going to meditate and see if I can go to sleep. And I was too lazy to get up. So I was lying in my bed and I said, I'm going to meditate and then go to sleep. But I couldn't get in a meditation. So I made myself stay there. And all of a sudden, my mattress went down on the bed as if someone had gotten on my bed. And when I opened my eyes, this being was about that far from my face.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I I remember taking this deep breath in, like, pardon me.
Mhm.
And the face was there and then it dissolved. Almost like
I was going to say like the Nordic.
like the Nordic did.
Wow.
And the next day I got in touch with my friend, and I said, tell your friend that her message was received.
Wow. What do you think that visitation was about? Like, because the Nordic, you said, healed you with the green light.
Yeah,
Do you know what the
was
mantis was? Just to say hi, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. It wasn't sexy. There was no great prophecy or
Okay.
anything. They were there. I mean, I guess they let me know we're around you.
Okay.
You know,
That's so synchronistic, because just today I was speaking with my esthetician about, you know, my podcast and the telepathy tapes and stuff. And she went into a whole story about how when she was a little girl, she was able to perceive spirits. And she would always talk to her mom about how she used to see this little ghost girl, and she could describe what she was wearing and what conversations they had and all that kind of stuff. And then she goes into where she starts telling me the story about how for a long duration of time, many, many years, she was being taken aboard a ship. And she said that each time there was 4 grays that were there, you know, one at the foot of the bed, one at the head of the bed, and 2 on the side. And she said that she was never, ever scared of them, that they always gave her like a calming presence. She's like, I don't know what the heck we were doing. She's like, all I know is I was laying on a metal table. The room was like rounded and lit up. So, you know, me, I go into investigation mode. I'm like, okay, what beings did you see? Did you see the source of the light? Did you see any other humans there? Were there any other beings besides the one they were, you know, I went into full investigation mode. But basically she was just, and it seemed like as she was telling me the story, she was recalling more of it. But it started off with being able to perceive the ghosts. And then all of a sudden she went into this alien abduction story where for many, many years she said, and I asked her, how often did you get taken aboard the ship? I'm like, was it, you know, like once a month, twice a year? She goes, no, it was about weekly for a long time.
Wow.
I was like, weekly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had that too when I first started getting visited. I was getting visited every full and new moon for about 8
Ooh,
months.
it's a new moon today.
Yeah. Yeah. But and so that's my point. Stories like that happen much more frequently, but the way the narrative is going, it's only the military has
right
those answers. You know, stories like that are rich, that are people every day, and will give you an unbiased, as you know, it'll be biased because we're all biased, but there's no agenda. And so those stories now, all you hear now is, you know, whether it's Brother Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon or these other folks, and it's so government focused that, to me, I find that concerning.
Yeah.
I think abductions are a lot more common than people realize or think, because everybody knows somebody who has some kind of story, you know, and I mean, that just proves it.
She said she thought she had an implant, and she said that another thing that was synchronistic to your story, Michael, is she said that she would always know when they were coming because she would feel them. And I was like, well, what did it feel like? Was it like a vibration in your body? Because that's what I've heard before. And she said it was almost like her brain slowed down, or like time slowed down. I don't know if her brain went into like theta or something, but she said that it would happen so often that her teacher told her mom that she recommended special ed classes for her because she thought she was slow. Meanwhile, she wasn't slow. She was just having ET encounters.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. It took me years to notice it because at least for me, I know people say, "Oh, I would have asked them this and asked them that," but that's easier to say
Yeah.
because they ping into your existence, and um, but I can't. It's all things would get really quiet. I could tell you that,
Okay.
and just the atmosphere, the energy in the
Yeah,
room.
it seems like they
it got
changed the
thicker.
they changed the
thicker.
surrounding.
That's the best way I could explain it.
Okay. So that lines up with what Michelle said today. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
And then
wondering,
you tell me? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay, I was just wondering, why do you share your experiences so openly? Like what
Motivation.
pushes you to do that? Yes.
Well, I didn't always. For many, many, many years because of ridicule and that kind of thing. I just got
So why now?
Because I don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and it hasn't been now. I mean, I've been talking about this for 25 years.
Right.
And you also, I don't know if you still do, but you help others. Isn't that what you do a lot? I mean, other than your,
Yes. But the
church
other
and everything. But
yes, I do. But now it's more accepted as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that
things are timing.
Thank you for being open about it. This is what causes the ripples for others to do the same.
Yeah, now I just don't care. I'm too old to care about it. And it's also timing, but for many years, Leslie, it was like a double life.
I mean, do you feel like you signed up like some sort of like, this is what I'm going to do before you incarnated? And like, have you ever thought about all that,
It's a great question. I will tell you this. First of all, the answer is yes, I have thought about it. And some of it makes sense. I had a friend who was a really, 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 really gifted psychic, just a down-to-earth person. He took a silver method mind control. He didn't even know he had it. And Gene was such a sweet man. And I think he probably could have worked for the government if he wanted to. He was a clairvoyant.
Okay.
And just pure clairvoyance. And a lot of things he told me happened. And one day, this was after I was having these experiences, and I went to his house to give me a reading. And he told me, he said to me, he was joking. He said, when you come to my house, you should let me know when you're bringing guests. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, you have these little people around you. They're in here now. And he said, it's a lot of them, and they followed you here. And he drew a picture of one of them for me. And he said that they have to do with outer space stuff.
Huh.
I never mentioned it to him.
Wow. Well, I guess with psychics, you don't have to, right?
Yeah. And so he, he told me, he said, Michael, they've been around you from Atlantis time, and that you have always been friendly with them, and that they'll always be around you. Even when you die, they will be there. And he said that he told me about some past life stuff. And he said that you're just here now. There's some things you have to make up for when you were in another life. He said this will become clear to you as you get older, but it involves them. And so, Leslie, that's all I could tell you. I feel that for me personally, I may have been, because I've been a church person for other lifetimes. I may have been, I don't know if this is for sure, but I may have been one of those clergy that either lied about this or persecuted people who talked about it.
Interesting.
And now
redemption.
It's like
or it's the lesson.
That karmic thing is I'm making up for that now. That's what I think.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But it makes sense to me. But he told me all this, and this was before I had even mentioned it to him.
Wow.
I feel like I know, right? That was in perfect unison. I feel like there's a few older people that have been more voicey lately, like especially like on Twitter. Like, what's that guy's name? Malgrim? Harold Malcolm.
Oh, Harold Malcolm.
Yeah, and also another thing that's coming to mind is that President Jimmy Carter just passed away yesterday at 100 years old, and he was very like UFO. I don't know about like how involved he was, but
he saw one.
Right, and we spoke to Reverend Bill about how he had a conversation with Jimmy Carter about UFOs.
Yeah, he had dinner with him and had a whole conversation.
So
that was a good interview. Great interview.
If any of you guys out there have information that you've been hanging on to for a number of years, I mean, no better time than the present. Start talking. Right. You want to come on my show? Hit me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys have any specific questions for him? Or is there anything that you wanted to talk about? What did you guys just recently film with Ancient Aliens? Can you spill any tea on that? What were you guys doing?
Yeah. We did 3 episodes. It's for season 17.
Okay.
They said they will air in March. And there's an episode on the Book of Enoch about, them mating with women and creating a hybrid race.
Okay.
Talked about that. We talked about some of the stuff that I just talked with you about, my experiences. And then we talked about some New Testament stuff, just some biblical verses that may, allude to off-world intelligences. So that was it. Like I said, they've never asked me about that. Apparently, a guy wrote an article that I was not aware of, which was, it wasn't condemning or anything like that. And they read the article and they asked me, had I known about the article? And I was like, no, let me see it. And so basically he was saying that if what Reverend Carter is saying is true, what does that mean for religion? So, and like I said, I did not even know the article was out. So that was a pleasant surprise.
So they wanted your response to that article. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's what we did. And, we're going into a new year, and 2025 will have its challenges and it'll, I think, other things. This is a time of a lot of secrets being revealed. So we'll just see what it's going to be like,
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's concerning, the geopolitical situations with these wars and stuff. But we'll just see what happens. And like I think I explained before, I don't have any fear or trepidation. I try not to worry about things I can't control, which has brought me a great deal of inner peace. And you make a difference where you can, and where you can't, you have no control over.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Worrying about stuff that you can't control consumed so much of my life. And I remember it was so liberating when I dropped it. I was like, you know what? F it. Boop.
Yeah.
Done.
Right. it's like you're being freed.
Right.
Yeah, you are. It's like a burden. I mean, I've been working on that and, letting go, which all genuine spiritual paths kind of, talk about. And that and the need to be right. Once I started letting that go, my life has been really, really peaceful, really rich. And I know people, and you people, it's okay if you're right about something, that's fine. But you wind up defending and fighting, and there are people who have to be right, and I just let them be right. If you need to be right, okay, that's
Yep.
I'm right about it.
We all have our individual perspectives.
Are you familiar with Ross Coulthart?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you aware that he just did a 1 week or 2? I think it was a 2-week trip in Egypt, where they had this really amazing tour, and they went up to all these different ancient sites.
No, I heard him mention that, but yeah, he does a lot of good work, and he's very open-minded, and I like his stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Chris Lato, are you familiar with Chris?
I've heard of Chris.
Okay. Chris Lato, he's the one who started the UAP Society. and that's the sister channel to Lato Files.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was there on that trip with Ross.
Yep.
And yeah, so he got to hang out with Ross for like a week and a half. It was pretty amazing. And some of the things that they saw, he says that there's no way that it was built when they said it was built. It's got to be much older.
Oh, yeah. But, and again, these things are being revealed. But like you were saying, for the average person, this is big news. But people were talking about this back in the 70s and 80s, about the technology for the pyramids, that we couldn't replicate them today. Or, you couldn't even take a playing card or a tarot card and put it. I mean, this conversation has been going on. What's different about it is you have journalists talking about it now, not all, obviously. And so, I think it's beautiful what he's doing. Because he's making it palatable for, the everyday person. But these conversations have been going on since.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
What is your favorite sacred text that refers to extraterrestrials?
I don't have a favorite, but they all do. The Bible talks about it. The Enuma Elish, the Mesopotamian thing, all of those I love because they talk about it, but I don't have a favorite one.
Okay.
But they do, these texts are the written testimony of our ancestors saying, this is what it was like to share the planet with another intelligence. That's what, there's beauty in the Bible, of course, and there are many lessons. I'm using that for instance. But that's what they're talking about, that we were invaded, that there was an intervention in our creation and in our lives. And this is what we went through, living with these beings. It's just it's all right there.
It's all very fascinating to me.
I was kind of stuck in the beginning of our conversation. I didn't mention it then, but I guess I'll mention it real quick right now. But like the idea of being invaded, but also there are creators supposedly, so the theory, I don't know, I felt like that was contradicting in a way. In my brain it was, but I don't know the full story of the Anunnaki and like the whole, I'm not like totally schooled in it. I'm just, familiar with it basically. But, so I'm just like, my brain kind of got stuck on that, early on.
I understand.
So what do you have to say about that?
Well, they, every civilization has the story of these beings coming down and creating us. And
like, were we here and then they just messed with our DNA? I mean, is that the theory? Or we went from like, some other species to like, a human being, or like, I don't know the theory or what you think, or there's many theories, I guess.
Well, no, that we were created.
Okay.
That we were created. Okay. And if you read the Mesopotamian text, if you read Zechariah Sitchin's work, that we were created as a slave race for some of these beings. Because they were mining gold. And they created us as a slave race. And we had upgrades.
And then we kind of just got left behind to like whatever happened to us, and here we are, and now they're back.
No. Yeah, I mean, you got to do the research.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really that curious, I'm just giving you bits and pieces. Otherwise,
it's
you don't know.
It is a lot. I mean, people spend lifetimes doing that,
But that we were created by these beings, and there's a set of beings who wanted to keep us as a slave race, and there were some other beings who had a hand that said, no, let's see what they do. Let's see how they evolve. Let's see where this is going to lead.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are at, right?
Yeah, but then there were things that happened, like the flood. And there have been many floods. Plato talks about a flood. Genesis talks about a flood. All these narratives, whether they're Cherokee or what have they talk about a flood. And so some of the survivors of that flood were taught how to progress by these beings. And so there were genetic modifications to make us smarter,
Okay.
to make us more creative. And so obviously these stories, when you hear stories like this, you have to say, oh, wow, man, what does that mean about God? Is there a God? And then when you research further, there are some extraterrestrial beings who say there is a source. They don't call
I've
it
heard that too.
God, and it's certainly not anthropomorphic. It doesn't have arms and legs, and it doesn't
there
get
is
angry or whatever.
Source, or what you might
There's
call
a source. Plato talked about going back further enough in time where you get to a point where there's no time. And he talks about a fractalized universe, which is what quantum theory is talking about. But Plato was talking about this 2,000 years before Jesus.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so
And I believe that many in history connected to that. You know what I mean? Like they got it directly from, they were able to connect to the ether or whatever, you know, and gain information just like people do today. I feel like, you know, has always happened.
Yeah. So that's where some of this research has been written about and talked about.
So would you still consider it an invasion?
I don't know any other way to consider it. If I have a home and you come to my home and some of you take stuff from me, some of you take my wives or daughters, some of you help. I don't know what other word it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
Semantics,
Yeah.
word semantics. Okay. Have we heard your Draco
you could
story?
call
It's
it
making me
an
think of that.
intervention.
Okay.
Oh, intervention. That's another good word to use.
Right,
Okay.
but a rose by any other name is still a rose.
Still a rose. Dr. Michael
on a
Sella just
planet.
said that yesterday in his video.
Yeah.
Speaking of the telepathy tapes, since it was brought up, I did see a video and I did consider this once, you know, prior to hearing this video, but like that autistics are just evolved human. They're evolving. And so they're the first in this old world that we're in. So they basically don't fit and have a really hard time, but they're the first to like be the new type of human, basically the evolving human. And maybe we were like messed with again at some point, you know, I don't know. But now telepathy is a thing. Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, telepathy is something that has been going on. We're just getting it.
We're just now getting
and that's the thing.
Right.
And when you're just getting it, you're like, oh my God, but it's like this has been going on way before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think all the orbs, the telepathy tapes coming out, all of it is just going to open everybody's consciousness even more. It all has a purpose, you know, and it's feeding into the, you know, opening and continuing of the awakening for all, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm excited for
growth.
2025 because there's a lot of things coming. There's a lot of stories that are going to come out and revelations that are going to be had, and a lot more people waking up to this cosmic consciousness whole aspect that we're not the apex species of intelligence, you know? So I'm glad to be amongst like-minded people that have already done the homework and are comfortable in this conversation so that we could be like lighthouses of help for those that are just now like opening their eyes. Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks for coming back and
thank
seeing
you.
us, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year to all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
And have a healthy and prosperous New Year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
Gang.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time, okay? And for our audience that's still sticking around, please do us a favor and smash that like button. Click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word.
All right.
Much love, peace, and namaste.
Namaste.
All right. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Good night.
you. Great talking to you again.